Motion, please. Thank you, Carol. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
And I'd like to call for a motion for the Board of Historic Resources to approve these as presented.
I move the approval of these nominations in the Eastern Region.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I so moved, or I'll say aye in favor.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's approved.
On with Aubrey in the Northern Region.
Y'all, I hope everyone's having a great morning. I just had one for you today, and it's in Frederick County and Winchester. It's the Kernstown Battlefield Historic District. Again, here's just kind of an interest slide with overall landscape and showing that this does continue, contain two discontinuous sites, one the Pritchard Farm and we have an easement on. The Kernstown Battlefield Historic District is located in Frederick County with portions located in the city of Manchester. It consists of the 315 acre Pritchard Grove Farm and the non-contiguous 37.5 Sandy Ridge Tract. The Battlefield Historic District consists of the following contributing resources: Pritchard House, which is circa 1854, the Pritchard Cabin, which based on earlier studies, I believe, from architectural historian Herman Calbian, it's dated at 1790. The 10th house, circa 1858-59. The Bank Barn site, which is pre-1860. Road trace, a stone wall, sort of pre-1860, and the Sandy Ridge tract. The Kernstown Battlefield Historic District is being considered for the National Register under Criterion A, military history as the site of action during the Battle of First Kernstown on March 11th, 1862, the Battle of Second Winchester in June of 1863, and the Battle of Second Kernstown in 1864. A little synopsis of each of those battles. The Battle of First Kernstown was fought on Pritchard Farm and Sandy Ridge and was General Stonewall Jackson's only tactical defeat as an independent commander. The battle was hailed as a Union victory. Union officials believed they had beaten a much larger Confederate force than they actually did, which caused Union officials to be concerned regarding the safety of Washington. And more Union troops were deployed to the region, limiting the potential reinforcements available for the push to Richmond. For the Battle of Second Winchester, the initial engagements for this battle occurred on Sandy Ridge and along Pritchard's Hill. This battle, a Confederate victory, opened a clear path for the invasion through Maryland and Pennsylvania, and eventually the Battle of Gettysburg. Battle of Second Kernstown, which is another Confederate victory, fought in the vicinity of the Pritchard Farm that created opportunity for the Confederate General Jubal Early to destroy the Baltimore and Ohio Railroad, which is north of Winchester, now West Virginia, and invade Maryland and Pennsylvania once again. The historic district also is being considered eligible under Criterion C, architecture. The principal building on the Pritchard Farm tract is the Pritchard Grimm House. The house is a well-preserved three-story, 5-bay brick revival style building constructed in 1865. Additionally, the house was used in the field hospital following each of the battles, as were many of the contributing resources still left on Pritchard Farm. The Pritchard Cabin is a 1.5-story log structure. Originally constructed circa 1790, it most likely served as a service building first, residence, and was later modified to serve as a residence for enslaved workers. This building was heavily damaged by fire after arson in 2000. The building was encased in plywood and basically mothballed for restoration efforts, which began in 2021 with stabilizing and repointing of the foundations. Other resources on the property include the tenant house built for another member of the Pritchard family in the late 1850s and the stone wall that lines the driveway through the Pritchard House and farm are notable as it was visited, described, and interpreted through detailed sketches of the landscape and selected buildings by journalists and noted Civil War documentary artist James Taylor. These drawings that you see here depict parts of the battlefield, the stone wall, and the domestic outbuilding, and also the bank barn. Kernstown Battlefield Historic District is being considered for the National Register again under criterion A with statewide significance of military history as the site of 3 battles that had significant impact on the Shenandoah Valley campaigns of 1862, 64, and the Gettysburg campaign of 1863. The district also is being considered under criterion C, architecture, locally for the Pritchard House and the Pritchard Cabin and the Tenant House. There are 2 periods of significance, one for architecture and one for military history. Under architecture, the period of significance begins in circa 1790 with the construction of the Pritchard Cabin and ends in 1859, encompassing the construction of the main house and the Tenant House. Under military history, the period of significance begins in 1862 with the Battle of First Kernstown and ends in 1864, encompassing the Battle of Second Winchester and the Battle of Second Kernstown. The author, or just to sum up, statewide and local levels of significance, areas of significance are again military and architecture. Period of significance 1790 to 1859 for architecture, 1862 through 1864 for military. There are 7 contributing resources and 7 non-contributing. And the authors are R. Gary Shepard, president of, and Daniel J. Heim, volunteer docent of both of for Kernstown Battlefield Association. All I have for you today. Any questions?
Trying to remember in the determination, did they acknowledge possibility for archaeological potential as
They
well?
do, yes,
Okay.
they do. We talked about it, and they are, I think there's had been some work done, but they weren't, their main goal was to get it. Listen, I believe they have some.
So definitely
Yeah.
potential. Okay. Couldn't remember seeing it, so,
Yeah, I think I was one of the things I asked them to go back and said.
okay. Are there any other questions or comments? Well, the chair moves to approve the Northern Region nominations, Kernstown Battlefield, as written. Is there a second?
Second.
No further discussion. All those in favor, please say aye. Thank you.
Are there any comments for Board of Historic Resources on the Northern nomination in the district? No. Chair moves to approve the Northern Region nomination. Can I get a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And Jamie, yes, thank you. Any opposed? So moved.
Then finally, we'll move to the Western region with Mike Bueller.
Good one. Oh. Get started here with Poplar Forest. You've already heard a little bit about that this morning. And this is an update of a 1969 nomination. So this is kind of along the lines of what Julie was talking about this morning, updating those early period nominations for some of the most important sites in Virginia. Certainly Poplar Forest is one of those. Actually in 3 different localities now, the new boundary, and I hope that you can see the 2 boundaries on the same map, and you can see that the boundary has changed quite a bit over the last 55 years. A lot of that is because the corporation for Jefferson's Poplar Forest had done so much work since then, uncovering sites that weren't formally known about, archaeological sites, and restoring buildings that could have possibly been lost. So it's in 3 different counties, Bedford and Campbell and the city of Lynchburg. It's mostly in Bedford County. That diagonal line is the county line, so most of it is in Bedford County to the west. And of course, it's significant for its association with Thomas Jefferson, who owned the property for more than 4 decades and built his architecturally distinctive octagonal retreat home there between 1806 and 1815. The updated inventory includes descriptions of resources that were identified in the original listing and adds an updated list of resources that have not previously been described. A digital location map illustrating the property's current boundary sketch maps with a key link to the inventory and a photo key are included along with photographs showing the present condition of the property. As I said, it comprises significant information that was not included in the 1969 nomination, and changes to the boundary. We've mentioned that. A greater number of resources than before. There are 62 resources now listed in the inventory, just on one property. So real quickly, the purposes of this update are to, number one, chronicle the architectural features of Thomas Jefferson's retreat home, his ornamental landscape, and the plantation grounds during and after the Jefferson era, following the restoration of the retreat house that took place between 1989 and 2023. And the first phase of landscape restoration that took place between 2010 and 2022. The second main purpose is to expand the period of significance to begin with 1764 and end in 1946 to include the earliest documented occupation of poplar forest under the ownership of John Wales before Jefferson. The entire period of Jefferson family ownership, including Jefferson's grandson, Francis Epps, and the Cobbs Hutter family that owned the property from 1828 to 1946. And lastly, to build an inventory of contributing and non-contributing resources, including standing buildings, structures, and archaeological remains that have been recorded since the 1980s. As I mentioned, that's a total of 62 resources, 31 contributing, 31 non-contributing. You see that those numbers here. And many areas of significance, all 4 criteria. So this was a major undertaking. The original nomination was like 3 pages long. This new one, I think, is in the 70 some pages long, but it really needed to be done. And I provided a lot of guidance, as Eric said earlier, but I overlooked a couple things. One of them brought to my attention by Carol Shaw, and that is the verbal boundary justification needs a little bit more work. I don't think that Carol hasn't said that she's opposed to the new boundary. She just wants a little more clarification about why it's drawn the way it is. And I think that's a good critique. And I think that we can very quickly take care of that. In the grand scheme of things, that's a pretty minor amount of work that needs to be done. And I have Carol's written notes, so we'll be taking care of that in the next week or two. Okay, any questions about it? Yes.
I'd just like to make a couple of comments. I think it may be a little more complex than that. The boundary justification, it's just a sentence based on what is owned now by the corporation.
Yeah.
And the justifications for changing the boundaries are very specific in the National Register regulations, and current ownership is not one reason for changing boundaries. And the proposal is to basically delete a number of several hundred acres from what was previously listed, but it's all, and so that has to be very specifically justified. I mean, it's the kind of things like professional area, loss of historic integrity, recognition of additional significance, and additional research documenting that they're a larger or smaller boundary should be the boundary because of whatever professional evaluation is made at the time. But it's complicated by the fact that it's also a National Historic Landmark designated by the Secretary of the Interior and that automatically makes it listed in the National Register with that boundary. And that's shown, I just pulled up the farm online, is at 950 acres. And this reduction would be down to, I think, around several hundred acres less. So I think it's important also, as Mike and I have discussed, to consult with the Park Service and the National Historic Landmark staff, because so much good work's been done in the revision of the nomination. And I think it's important to be sure that when it goes up and is submitted, there aren't questions that are raised,
Yeah, like consult about that and review your notes. But I think the important thing is you're not finding fault with the new boundary.
I just don't know whether I'm,
Okay.
I'm in favor of whatever the appropriate boundary is being finalized when the nomination is submitted. And I think the documentation, you know, in terms of the details of what's been done at Poplar Forest is, you know, that's a real improvement over the lack of information in the early nomination. Yeah.
Okay. All right, well, we'll definitely take a look at it, and, review your comments, and we definitely appreciate that. And, so we'll go from here. Thank you for that. It's good. That's one of the reasons it's good to have so many eyes on this. And of course, Carol knows the National Register program as well as anyone. And, you know, a lot of times it takes a village when you're talking about a project of this magnitude. So we definitely appreciate that, Carol. Any other questions before I move on or comments?
Well, just comment, I think it's really important, as you noted in Julie earlier, it's great to see going back to some of these early listings that were incredibly sketchy and providing so much more information. I am wondering about Carol's point about the boundary. Is this ready for us to vote on today, or does this need some more cooking and come back at our next meeting? I'm fully supportive of where this is all headed. It just sounds like that might be a fairly significant question to iron out a little bit, at least with the Park Service and others before.
And how,
We can vote on it maybe separately and add that some potential changes will be looked into and made before it's finalized.
and how does that get
And
reconciled?
if both boards want to see the revisions, we can do that, or I can just share them with Carol, or however you all want to do it. We can just send them back out for everyone to see, or maybe repost them online.
And how does that get reconciled with the National Landmark Program?
I think there needs to be a discussion with the Park Service about that because, you know, an action by the state to change a National Register nomination that the state submits is not going to, I don't think, change the boundary of what's listed in the register because that's been designated by the Secretary of the Interior. But granted, this is one of the very old first National Historic Landmarks too. So there's a real need for that documentation to be upgraded too. And I'm sure they can make use of
Our
some of what this work that's been done here. But I still think that we have to be, I'll think collectively be comfortable in the end with what really is an appropriate boundary based on one of the justifications in the regulation.
You have to say that I've been at DHR for a long time, and I really can't say that I have shepherded a project just like this. So there's always a learning curve involved with all these projects, and it doesn't matter how much experience you have with the register program and historic landmarks, you're going to run up against questions that you haven't dealt with before, and that's just the nature of the beast. But we can certainly take care of it. I'm perfectly confident that we can shore this up to everybody's satisfaction. Not convinced. So whatever you want to do, if you want to see it again at the board meeting in December.
I think personally, I would be more comfortable with that because I don't think we want to have any problems with this. It's too important a property and we don't want there to be any conflict or confusion. It seems to me it's, you know, you don't want it sent up there and then have a bunch of questions be raised and still have it not finalized, you know. Just seemed like it would be a wise thing to give all these points careful consideration.
All right, so we bring it back in December, fix it up, bring it in December.
Motion.
Do we need to write?
Yeah, I was going to say we probably need to vote on that, whether we table it or pending all the future changes. So I guess we can pull that one out now before we move on to the other four or five that you have, if you would like. Carol, would you like to make a motion or that we approve the nomination for Poplar Forest or table it for the next meeting pending some changes on the boundary?
Well, I would recommend that we have a motion that proposes, and I guess table is the right word for it, but that we, the nomination after you've had an opportunity to review it carefully, determine, and with the park, discuss with the Park Service the implications of the relationship to the National Historic Landmark and have a boundary justification that you feel confident, the state feels confident will be approved based on all these considerations.
Okay, so the motion on the floor is essentially to table this for the next meeting pending the boundary justification and the discussion with NPS over the implications with the boundary of the National Historic Landmark and the new boundary for the National Historic Register. Second, Jody. All those in favor on the State Review Board, please say aye. Aye. And again, our recommendations, our side of the board, our recommendations, we're not voting anything that is legally binding, unlike the BHR over here.
So do we need to consider at all, since it's not going forward to us as the board?
I don't think so.
Stays.
I would think it's tabled. Look to Andrew, but I would think it's tabled now. We don't need to vote.
I think you all can vote if you want to.
Yeah.
Since that's kind of the binding action here.
Okay.
It's recommendation.
Do I have a motion to consider Poplar Forest for the next meeting to better consider and review the district boundaries and its relationship to the National Historic Landmark to gain more confidence to proceed with this for the next meeting?
Second that motion.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And Jamie, I hear you.
Yep, aye.
Aye. Great. None of, anyone opposed? No. The motion is approved to table for the next meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
My apologies to the author of the Poplar Forest. I wish that I had given them better guidance on that, but again, I gave them a lot of guidance and they followed all of it. They were great about it. And I think they did a great job with everything else besides this boundary issue. So I do want to give them props for that.
Yeah, I'd like to also agree with that. Just, I mean, I don't have any problem with the work that's been done. I just think that we should be sure that some of that, it's a pretty important discussion to happen before we have a final vote. But I think it's fantastic work that I've seen from both Poplar Forest and the work that you've done with this. So it's not at all a question about the quality.
Very unique case.
Yeah.
It's more just the stakes. As Carol said, this is such a unique, I mean, you see how many it's nominated under every single criteria, which is very rare. It's such an important resource. And given the role with the National Register, I just think we need to just take a little more time to get it right. But
Yeah.
absolutely no problems with the work.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And so I'm fully committed to getting this to the finish line by the December meeting and we'll see it again then. Thanks for all that. Okay. I'll move on to the James Blaine High School in town of Big Stone Gap in Wise County. Over there all the way in the western part of the state. James A. Blaine High School, now Big Stone Gap Town Hall, is of course located in the town of Big Stone Gap, an incorporated community in southwestern corner of Wise County. Designed by prominent Wise County architect Charles B. McElroy, the school exemplifies the progressive modernist architectural style popular in the 1950s. The 1952 school is an L-shaped single-story building constructed of wood framing with brick veneer. It retains many of the defining characteristics of the modernist style, such as flat roofs, except for the gym you see has a gable roof. Heavy plain cornices and metal coping, recessed entryways, and steel frame hopper windows. Although the town altered some areas of the building since acquiring the property in 1987, the building retains historical integrity in its massing, floor plan, gymnasium, performance stage, bathrooms, teachers' lounge, lockers, tower, boiler room, and more. The Bland High School reflects the efforts of African Americans in Southwest Virginia to educate their children despite social and economic constraints that systematic discrimination placed upon them. Given that the school was constructed shortly before the 1954 landmark U.S. Supreme Court ruling, Brown v. Board of Education, it serves as a poignant symbol of Virginia's and Wise County's efforts to resist integration by equalizing segregated education and, following the ruling, refusing to place Black students in white schools. At no point between 1954 and the Civil Rights Act of 1964 did the Wise County School Board or Board of Education integrate its public school system, placing Bland High School within a statewide pattern of resistance. Wise County resisted until state leaders, fearing a loss of federal education funding, compelled the county to integrate. 4 years later, in 1969, the first class of integrated students arrived at Bland High School following a fire at East Stone Gap Elementary School. So between 1964 and 1969, they just let the school sit vacant. Principal Cato H. Shorter, who died in 1981, is a vital figure in this story. He was a primary driver for high quality education for Wise County's Black population. Prior to Bland's construction, Shorter oversaw the expansion of curriculum at Central High in nearby Appalachia, Virginia, to ensure students' preparedness for college and the workforce, rather than trades like coal mining alone. With new funding available from the state to equalize segregated education in the 1950s, Shorter ensured that Bland High School would be state-of-the-art and modern in every respect. He devoted his life to expanding opportunities for his students, evident in the lengths that he and his wife, Mary Beatrice, went to provide resources, amenities, and support beyond the classroom. We looked at Principal Shorter's house a couple years ago and determined it eligible, and it'll probably arrive as a nomination, I would think, in the not too distant future. Did I read that last one? Yes. So this was done by two people affiliated with the UVA College at Wise, Math Rowe, who is a student there, and Dr. Jenny Turman, who is a professor there at UVA College at Wise. And then Dr. Gail Shorter Hudson and Dr. Jay Judson are both daughters of Principal Shorter. And of course, we assisted them as well as we could. So there's 3 contributing resources on the property, and that is the main school building, a industrial arts building, and the ball fields are the contributing resources. And then the non-contributing resources are just kind of temporary looking little sheds that the town uses for its operations. They're very small, and they really don't affect the setting or the character of the property. Any questions about that? All right. Move on. To the Rosenweld Felt School. We had a caller earlier, and I haven't met the ladies, but you're here for the school too. So thank you for coming. It's nice to have you here. The Rosenweld Felt School is a 1-story, 2-part masonry building situated on a 7-acre parcel on the east side of the city of Galax, adjoining a neighborhood of low-density single-family homes. As Galax's other schools integrated in the 1960s, Rosenweld Felt School, students had a choice of attending those schools. Enrollment at the Rosenweld Felt School dwindled, and it closed in 1969. Yet the school continues in its important role as a social hub of the African American community of Galax in the form of a community center and the home of the local Head Start program. The school's history began in 1924 when a group of interested Galax citizens began meeting with local officials for the purpose of establishing a school. Using local dollars, the Rosenwald Fund, and land donated by Thomas L. Phelps, the co-owner of the locally based Baldwin Phelps Detective Agency, the school was constructed of brick masonry on a stone foundation and opened its doors in 1926. The original part of the school's design was based on the Rosenwald Fund's published two-teacher community school plan. The Rosenwald Phelps School became the educational center and social hub of African-American activity in Galax, educating African-American children through the 9th grade. It was at times referred to as the Rosenwald Phelps Junior High School. A large addition was constructed in 1956 and is rectangular in form, wrapping completely around the east and south sides of the building portion. Wrapping completely around the east and south sides and a portion of the north side of the original building, leaving only the west elevation and a portion of the south elevation fully exposed. Among the alumni of the school was Willie T. Green Sr. I think that's who we talked to earlier.
Yeah.
It was Willie T. Green, the first African-American to serve on Galax City Council and as mayor of Galax. Alum Helen Kyle was the first African-American woman to serve on Galax City Council and the first African-American appointed to the Galax School Board. Is that one of you ladies? Okay. Not embarrassing if it was. All right. So this nomination was written by Craig A. Wilson. He's a planning consultant. And the level of significance, as I mentioned, is low at the local level in the areas of education and ethnic heritage. Period of significance goes up until desegregation in 1969, and it's just one contributing resource on the site of the school building itself. Any questions about Rosenwald Phelps School?
But I do want to acknowledge that we do have Sylvia Richardson from the Rosenwald Revamped nonprofit organization that, sorry, I didn't catch her name either.
I'm Dion Tucker and I'm the treasurer.
Treasurer. So welcome.
Government teacher, Galax High School.
Great. Wonderful. Thank you for coming here to support your nomination. And with continued success with taking it back over from the city. And
Thank you.
there any
We go on. Okay. Those of you on the state review board saw this property fairly recently. It was a real quick turnaround from the PIF to the nomination. And that's because this is slated to be a tax credit rehab project. It's the Stay Clean Bakery in the city of Lynchburg. It's located on Park Avenue in the College Hill neighborhood. It is a large structure, utilitarian in design, built in several phases beginning in 1913 through the 1940s. Although vacant for several years, the building remains in fair condition with many historical materials and features intact. Building has a masonry structural system with a variety of material, including brick, concrete, and clay tile. The exterior varies between parched or stuccoed finishes and exposed structural materials. Each block of the building is topped by a flat roof behind a parapet. The roof line is accentuated by several raised parapet walls originally painted with the Stay Clean Bakery Incorporated logo, as well as Sunbeam Bread, as you see here. Former bakery is locally significant under Criterion A for its association with the commercial and industrial history of Lynchburg and its part in the nationwide transition of local companies into large-scale organizations. Part of the rationale for industrial growth in the bakery industry was related to the promotion of safe working conditions and sanitation in food production. Hence the name Stay Clean Bakery. Large-scale bakeries and their trade organizations, such as Quality Bakers of America, successfully convinced the marketplace that homemade bread could be unsafe to eat. Stay Clean Bakery became in 1913 and quickly grew into a successful local business that would sell its product throughout Virginia, West Virginia, and North Carolina. From 1913 to 1978, Stay Clean Bakery made multiple additions to the plant and upgraded its processes and machinery, thereby continuing its operation as a modern and profitable business. After winning multiple awards from the Quality Bakers of America, Stay Clean was invited to join the cooperative in 1938. In addition to providing assistance and institutional knowledge in the various aspects of the baking business, Quality Bakers also promoted its popular brand, Sunbeam Bread, produced at Stay Clean. So this nomination was written by Dara Freeberg, Robert Taylor, and Anna White of Dutton and Associates. I mentioned the criteria, the period of significance should end in 1960, based on that's when the building, they continued to modernize their machinery and processes, but the building was no longer enlarged beyond that. So it's just one contributing resource, and the building occupies the entire lot. So that makes it pretty neat.
Question.
Ready to press on to our last nomination today. This is one we've been working on for a good long time now. And so happy to see it come to fruition. The people in Bluefield are very, very excited about it. The district, which consists entirely of commercial and mixed-use resources, encompasses 11 acres in the historic heart of the late 19th century town of Bluefield in Tazewell County. When incorporated in 1884 as the town of Graham, Bluefield stood at the gateway to the immense Pocahontas coal fields nearby to the north, and it soon became an important rail connection to points east and west. Most historic resources in the district are brick commercial buildings, 1 to 3 stories tall, with street-level storefronts of large plate glass windows, moderately embellished decorative brick details, and cornices and parapeted roofs. Some multi-story commercial buildings house mixed uses with stores or business offices on the first floor and residential or another use above. An example of this arrangement is the Harmon Masonic Lodge, which houses a pharmacy on the first floor and meeting rooms on the upper floors. The 2 historic banks in the district, the Bank of Graham and the First National Bank, diverge from the more vernacular commercial architecture as notable examples of the Beaux-Arts and classical revival styles, respectively. Thank you to the reviewer who pointed out that it should be Beaux-Arts, not Beaux-Arts. We're going to fix that shortly. So the U.S., those other 2 buildings that I mentioned, I'm going to show you here in a minute. The 1940 U.S. Post Office, which stands near the center of the district, was executed in the Georgian Revival style with uncommonly handsome brickwork for the period and a slate shingle roof. Towards the end of the period of significance is Bluefield's Dairy Queen, which opened in 1968. Opening day notices made note of ample customer parking. The building's identifiable form is historically associated with Dairy Queen stores, and Bluefield's example includes the use of the company's trademark angular gambrel roof with wide overhanging eaves. There's another S on the end of eaves. But yeah, how many Dairy Queens do you see that haven't been completely updated and done away with their, this historical form? This is wonderful to see there. The lobby of Bluefield's well-preserved 1940 U.S. Post Office retains its colorful hand-painted mural called Coal Mining by New Deal artist Richard Hay Kenna. And only part of that mural is shown here. If you try to take a picture of it, there's a light fixture like coming right down the middle of it. So it's really difficult to photograph, but this portion of it reproduced very nicely. Okay, here is the Harmon Lodge, which I mentioned earlier, has a pharmacy on the first floor, and then the Masonic rooms up on the second and third floor. It's the oldest building in the district, erected in 1895. And the first floor has always been rented as a commercial space and is currently occupied by the new Graham Pharmacy. To the right, you see the First National Bank, and I have a better photo of that here. So these are the two banks in the historic district. The town historically served as commercial, financial, and industrial center for coal operators and associated coal towns and camps. Although coal operators are no longer the primary economic activity in the area, Bluefield continues to serve as a center of government and commercial activity within its region. The historic district consists of 40 resources, 35 of which are contributing. There's 4 non-contributing buildings and 1 non-contributing park, and a non-contributing park bandstand. The contributing resources were constructed between 1895 and 1973 and represent Bluefield's industrial and commercial growth during that period. The majority of buildings in the district were constructed between 1895 and 1920. The historic architectural resources in the district are a tangible link to the town's beginnings and continue to reflect their commercial purposes. So, let's see. So this was written by Deborah McLean, architectural historian and preservation consultant. She did, I think, it's just a beautiful job. She incorporated lots of figures in the nomination with captions, and I think uncommonly good work. And I want to note that this was co-sponsored by the department through our cost share survey and planning grant program. So we all can be proud. And we are. So that's my final nomination. Here's the rundown of the 5 from the Western region. Well, 4 nominations and 1 update.
I just have one thing to say, and it's about what you said about the organization of that last nomination. It was so easy to read and easy to follow.
Thank you.
It was just really a delight to read. And I was just so impressed by the quality of the resources in that district.
Wow, thank you very much. Appreciate that. Yeah. Really proud. And Deb McLean, she's one of the best consultants working in Virginia, to say the least. We're lucky whenever we can get her working in Southwest Virginia because she lives in Richmond. All right, any other questions or comments?
All right, and I would like to entertain or ask for a motion to approve the Western Region nominations, which will include James Bland, Rosenwald Felt School, Lynchburg Stay Clean Bakery, Bluefield Commercial Historic District as written.
I will so move.
Second.
Great, thank you, Carol. All those in favor on the State Review Board, say aye.
I
Aye. Motion passes.
Very much.
And the Board of Historic Resources, I'd like to ask for a motion to approve the Western region, including the James Bland High School, the Rosenwald Phelps School, Lynchburg Stay Clean Bakery, and Bluefield Commercial Historic District nominations as presented. So moved. Can I have a second?
second.
Second, thank you. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? No. The nominations for the Western region are approved.
Thank you.
All right, and before we leave, we need a motion to close the meeting from the State Review Board side.
So moved.
Thank you, Larissa. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Somebody did. All those in favor of adjournment, please say aye.
Aye.
I'd like to receive a motion to adjourn for the Virginia Historic Resources Review Board morning meeting. So moved. A second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unopposed? Morning meeting is adjourned.
Great.